Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Perception Paradox. My name is Zivile, and this is a podcast where we do uncover underdog founder stories, and we do focus on health, entrepreneurship, and our mind and philosophy. So today we're joined by Dora, who is a scientist turned entrepreneur who is tackling one of the most overlooked challenges in women's health, perimenopause. As the founder of Mohana, a health science company, Dora is on a mission to empower women who are 35 plus with personalized tools and science-backed solutions to take control of their hormonal health. From her unconventional leap from AI research to revolutionizing healthcare, Dora's stories is a masterclass in innovation, resilience, and purpose-driven entrepreneurship. So this episode is for anyone who has ever wondered what it takes to build a business from scratch, how science can redefine health, or simply what's happening in the mysterious world of hormones. So let's dive in. Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Dora, welcome to Perception Paradox. I'm really excited to have you here. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very well. I love Mondays, so I'm excited for this week to come.
I love it. I wish more and more people will wake up and say, I love Mondays, and not trying to escape the reality. This is really great. I love Mondays too. Okay, I guess we can dive deep into your story. And you have a very unique journey, right? Well, how does someone go from cutting-edge AI and revolutionizing women's health?
Let's see how far I should go back. So I guess I always had a little bit of this entrepreneurial drive, and I never really felt comfortable following what everybody's doing. And I actually started my education in economics and business, and I saw that everybody around me was going into finance and banking. And I thought like, there must be something, something more different and something unique that I could do with my life. And I was missing something that was more intellectually challenging. I really missed that from my economics degree. And that's when I started learning to program on my own. And I kind of got pulled into this whole world of computer science. This was back in 2013, 14. So before AI was kind of on the map. And so yeah, back then I think we just started to make some really cool advances with AI. So very soon into learning how to program, I actually got fully involved in this world. And I was in this hacker school in New York City where there were some really inspiring professors kind of exploring AI and building algorithms and seeing like what are the capabilities that we have access to. And that kind of started off my interest. And then long story short, so Shopify somehow found me and they pulled me into Canada. I worked for them as like an AI engineer / machine learning engineer for many years. And then I left that behind because I still wanted to go deeper into the sciences and into the AI research world. And I got this opportunity to get into graduate school at Mila. Mila is one of the largest AI research institutes in Canada, or well, in the world, but the research center is in Canada. And well, I started a PhD and it was really fun and it kind of was everything that I wanted at this point. But then again, I noticed this question of like, hey, everybody around me is like really, really intelligent, but they all want to go to like Facebook and Google and DeepMind, and this is how far their career aspirations go. And I started thinking like, well, this sounds kind of wrong that we have some of the smartest people in this research institute, and then all of them are going to the same like handful of companies. And surely there must be some bigger problems out there that need this kind of talent and these kinds of skills. So this is sort of a little bit about my background. And then personally, during this time, I was confronted by hormonal challenges myself. And it seemed to me that every girlfriend that I spoke with was actually experiencing very similar symptoms that often cause a lot of frustration and anger, because it seemed like when you go to your conventional doctor, they're really misunderstood and they don't really know what to tell you other than go on the birth control and then good luck. We have no other information to tell you. So I was very frustrated about this, and I could not really make peace with the fact that I am trained to be an AI scientist, and I have some of the most marketable skills, and we are making all these progress in the AI world. But then when we look at this very, very basic need that so many women seem to share, we are nowhere. And really, there's like no innovation happening in this space. So that's when I decided to leave my PhD behind and start Mohana and kind of go deeper into this entrepreneurship path.
That's inspiring. So how did that happen? So you kind of decided, all right, you found that your niche and the problem that really needs your attention, and especially women health is so underrepresented in the whole science community and the research field. And then you just left it behind and you dived straight into creating something by yourself?
Yes, pretty much.
Wow, all right. That's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, early days, I think when you start, you're like, well, how does this work? How do I prioritize my time? What problems do I solve first? And I did a lot of let's just say market research in terms of what are the solutions that we have? What are the things that are understood about the female body? What are the blood tests that women should be looking at, when it comes to these, period pain, cystic ovaries, infertility? I just kind of went deeper into the common symptoms that a lot of my age group was experiencing, and dove into the research to understand what are the biomarkers that are indicative of these symptoms, and what can we do with these biomarkers? What are some interventions that women could actually consider if they don't choose to go the take the pill and move on type of approach.
Yeah, it's kind of taking the pill seems like to be the only option right now if you're looking to this whole modern world. And I am totally on your side that I do believe that pill is not an option and it's not the solution for the root cause. But for the listeners who may not know, can you explain what the perimenopause is and why it's so impactful for our women's health?
Yeah. So maybe let me just say first that at first I was really looking at this age group of late 20s, early 30s, experiencing mysterious hormonal symptoms. And then we started building a product for this audience. And then we noticed that a lot of women who were late 30s, early 40s to mid 40s, they started to come in and use the product. And what we learned is that even though the product itself was built for this younger audience, it seems like a lot of these slightly older women are actually getting a lot of value out of it. And what we learned is that this slightly older audience, actually has a much better awareness to recognize that their symptoms are hormone related and therefore look for a solution. Whereas I think what we've noticed is that a lot of younger women are impacted by these hormonal imbalances, but they don't associate their symptoms with the word hormone. So it's really hard to help them discover Mohana because they are not thinking of that just yet. So that's just a little bit of background context, but then zooming in on perimenopause. So perimenopause is a hormonal transition that impacts every single woman. This is the 10 to 15 year long onset leading up to menopause. So menopause is officially when you no longer have a cycle. When it has been 12 months since you had your last cycle, then you're officially in menopause. But for 10 to 15 years before you get to that point, your hormone levels start declining. And as you go through this, as your hormones decline, you experience a range of symptoms. So this is a transition that affects everybody, and it can start as early as 35 or even earlier sometimes. it's a very slow transition. So it's not like, okay, you hit 35 and then you feel miserable. No, not at all. It's just that your hormones, estrogen and progesterone, they slowly start declining. So you might not notice this for like the first 5 or 10 years, but usually a significant number of women, around 90%, will start experiencing symptoms around like, late 30s, early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on the individual, but for 90%, there will be symptoms.
And what are the most common symptoms that women can already identify?
Yeah, so fatigue is a huge one. So the body goes through some changes in terms of your metabolic health, your metabolism. So you're not able to convert food in the same way as you used to. And as a consequence, people experience exhaustion and weight gain, even though they might have not changed anything in their diet. Then other common symptoms are headache, mood changes, irritability, changes in motivation, brain fog, changes in memory and concentration. So perimenopause actually is a full body, I don't want to say condition, but rather it impacts all parts of the body. It's a natural process, but it has an effect on your well-being, both your mental and your physical well-being. And Mohana, now that we kind of like shifted our focus to really zoom in on perimenopause, the mission is how can we simplify this process such that, in 5 years or in 10 years of time, everybody will know that perimenopause is about to start when, you turn 30, 35. You start thinking that like, okay, this is going to happen no matter what I do. So I might as well start preparing and shift some of my little lifestyle behaviors, nutrition, exercise, in a way that it supports this transition, because there are a lot of very specific actions that you can do to make sure that you support this transition.
Okay, very interesting. So just before we go into the support of a transition and how Mohana is actually helping women, so very interesting what I'm hearing about your founder story. You've noticed that the hormones are super important for our bodies, that it causes dysregulation of our health. You started looking into this problem scientifically, and then basically you kind of semi-pivoted your audience, right? Because the woman for whom really it's a huge need and huge change with your solution actually started coming to, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I truly think that the same, that like eventually the awareness is going to change to an extent where women will be more educated about their bodies. And then it makes sense for us to expand our positioning in a way that younger women will also find Mohana and know that this product can actually help their symptoms. But right now, there's just so much misinformation and there is a very little awareness in this younger audience. So that's why we just zoomed in on this perimenopause.
Okay, fair enough. It's just a very smart go-to-market where you choose the audience, you scale with it, and then you extend your offering and the audience into that.
Yeah.
So how does Mohana actually, how does your platform, which is called Mohana, helps the women during this perimenopause and in general going through hormonal challenges?
Yeah. So the product is very much has these two questions as at the core of its DNA. And these two questions are very much in line with my experience trying to navigate this for myself. The one was that, given my symptoms, what are the blood tests I need to do? And what are the actions that I can take knowing my blood test result? So Mohana, the product was built according to these key steps. So the first step is always a blood test, because we believe that symptoms can actually come from a whole lot of different root causes. And that's why if you want to be very targeted in your approach in healing your body, you need to know what is the root cause. And that's where we look at this comprehensive blood test as the first step. And then the second step focuses on the second part of the question, like what now? What can I do? What are my options, and what are evidence-based and credible and how do you say, what are interventions that have scientific backing to it? And that's where I don't want to go into too much technicalities. I mean, it's up to you, but basically the vision is how can we look at the user's biomarkers and the available scientific literature and pull out the interventions that the user should be aware of, such that they can then make an informed choice that, okay, this, and this is actually the most relevant to me, given my symptoms and my test results.
Okay. Wow. So you kind of also get the personal recommendation, more or less. How can you get towards more balance
Yeah.
of the hormones?
Yeah, exactly. So the idea is how can we empower the user to take action, to not just receive this blood test result and be like, okay, goodbye, like off you go now, but rather what are your options as someone looking to feel better?
Wow. When it comes to hormones, I've been talking to many women in the last year, and everyone is going through something with hormones, but nobody kind of identifies what to do, how to solve this issue, etc. And then we have someone who is in different kind of camps of the science, of some more holistic approach, etc. What's your approach? How can we nurture and balance out, harmonize the woman's body?
That's a very big question. I think there is a crazy amount of misinformation on the internet, and I think a lot of companies are feeding off from that information. And part of the problem is that, when you look at the quality of scientific evidence, you have like doctors' opinions at the bottom, because doctors' opinions very often are just opinions, right? If they are not backed by actual scientific studies, they are just opinions. But then a lot of these doctors wrote books, and these books get picked up by desperate women looking for help, right? So then this information gets into like the public awareness, and then we just treat it as like fact. And I think that's where you need to be very careful to know like who you trust and who you don't trust. And it's really, really overwhelming to navigate that as an individual. And that's really where Mohana wants to like take care of that you don't have to be an expert to know what you can trust versus what you cannot trust, but rather we are your go-to source for credible scientific information on the female body. Yeah. So, but to answer your question, I think there is a role for everything, right? I'm definitely not against birth control pill. I know there are a lot of very extreme opinions against it, but I think it's just like with antibiotics. Like, there are so many people against antibiotics, but it's one of the most incredible medications that we have access to. But is it overprescribed? Yes, absolutely.
That's about the use case, right? Yeah, how often and
exactly. And it's the same thing with birth control pill, right? If you have endometriosis and you just had the surgery, the go-to medical guideline is to prescribe birth control for women to make sure that that extra tissue doesn't come back. So we would never tell you to not go on the pill, because there are very clear use cases where you should go on the pill. That said, the pill is overprescribed, and that's really what's concerning, because we're not looking at all the other interventions that people actually do have access to, but they are just never told about those interventions.
Okay. And what would be those interventions or daily habits and changes can women do to actually to navigate it? I don't know, I would say with more confidence and more easier.
Yeah, a big root cause that causes a lot of hormonal issues in women is blood sugar fluctuations. And that is, again, a concept that I'm surprised that we never learn about this in school, but it actually seems to be so important from very early on in life all the way until you get quite old. So blood sugar fluctuations, one of the interventions that you can do is make sure that you have enough protein in each of your meals. Have enough protein, because that will have a huge effect in how much your blood sugar is going to spike when you're having a meal. So that would be one. Another one would be strength training. So resistance training. It's really important for women in perimenopause, because as you start aging and then as estrogen goes down, the risk of bone density loss, so osteoporosis, increases. So you lose your muscles, your bones get weaker. So you have to add some load to support both your muscles and your bones. So that's a really effective protocol that again feeds back into the blood sugar control topic. So these are very complex ideas, and that's why Mohana, we built a health journey where you learn about small concepts, like one little lesson, one little bite of information every day, and you interact with it almost as you would interact with Duolingo.
This is great.
And the idea is that you take on these small actions that you can incorporate into your life as you learn about these concepts.
That is so cool. I was literally thinking earlier today, but the way I usually do that with this daily tasks, daily some kind of actions. But when it comes to health, I do have my notes and then I kind of mark them because I think this way you can really track the progress. But I've never took it to some kind of, I don't know, I could have built actually, I guess, AI agent to help me to track the process. So I find it's very useful because you could clearly see if you did not complete this step. I'm not sure if you go that in depth.
Yeah.
But actually, that might have been the cause of a drop or your mood swing or, I don't know, your fatigue that came back because you had a day, night out with the girls drinking champagne. And maybe that alcohol affected your whole week, both mood and health situation.
Yeah, exactly. So once the idea is that like if we see somebody who has a metabolic imbalance, so we have like a set of biomarkers that we would measure to see if you have a metabolic issue. And if you have that, then you will see that alcohol is actually one of the triggers for blood sugar spikes. So that creates already the awareness for you to keep this at the back of your mind. We're not saying never have alcohol, right? But we're just saying like, do it while keeping in your mind that you're trying to improve your glucose response. So yeah.
Okay, I'm a big fan of Mohana now when you explain me the problem you're solving and so accurately where it's all coming from, because I can hear that it's very applicable not only for someone who is going through perimenopause, but I've noticed that more and more younger women are experiencing the hormonal issues and challenges, and that really affects their daily life. So I'm quite keen on testing it out more, and I hope more women will hear about that. You mentioned
Thank you.
that you love Mondays, right? So how big is your team? Are you still working here with it alone, or you have some team behind this whole mission?
Yeah, so I started out as a solopreneur, and for quite a while it was me, and then friends would come in and help out for like periods of times. But as a bootstrap company, we have limited resources to hire people and build a big team. So right now we are 3 people full time, and we have 3 advisors who are part-time supporting the team. But yeah, the team had points where we were 8 people or 10 people, and then we had points where it was only me. So it has changed quite a bit over time. Yeah.
Okay. Did you raise any funds already?
We are in the process of fundraising. So I don't know if you saw our slush pitch. We're unexpectedly, we somehow became top 3 out of 1,000 companies. So we had a really exciting opportunity to pitch in front of 4,000 investors in the room. So that gave us this amazing momentum with investors reaching out to us, wanting to talk to us. And so we're still kind of in the after effect from that.
I guess I literally was about to ask you, so how did being on stage and getting so much attention during Slush influence your further growth as a founder? Because visibility is the key here, right? Getting into the eyes and in front of the eyes of the right people.
Yeah, it was incredible, honestly. I'm definitely much more on the introverted side of the spectrum, so I guess I haven't sought out these kinds of events in the past, but it was a really important reminder to get out there and to talk about Mohana, because we just got so many amazing opportunities come out of this. And to give you an idea, like we submitted this application for the Slush 100 competition, thinking like, we don't really know what Slush is, like, sure, why not just apply and then we'll see what happens. And we didn't think it was a big deal until we actually, were there in person and we saw that, wow, this is a very highly concentrated, super high quality conference with so many investors, right? So it's just, I guess the takeaway is like show up, be there, represent, talk about your company.
That's such
A
a
good
great
reminder to do
insight.
more of that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think it's about the balance, right? Sometimes either we get too much into our heads and solving the problems and forgetting to actually go and speak about that so people could
Yeah.
know and help you get there. Because at the end of the day, it's easier to go together and being part of the community.
Yeah. I think as you said, like there is a balance to this. And I think as an entrepreneur, you constantly need to evaluate like, where is your time best used? Because I
Mhm.
remember early on, like in the first few months of building Mohana, everybody around me was introducing to people, and my schedule was just full of meetings that actually didn't really add much value to the company, because it would be like meeting an accountant and meeting a lawyer and
Mhm.
them pitching to me in terms of how they can help me, but I didn't yet have a real use case for their help. And I think just like networking and going to events, like there is a time and place for that. And it's also okay to spend many months like not going anywhere and not taking these types of meetings, but really just focusing on building the product.
100%. I really like what you're saying and mentioning about your early stage of the company and realizing that you spend so much time in the meetings that are either too early or potentially they're not the right meeting in the current stage you
Yeah,
are. It's
yeah,
very important,
exactly.
but I think we get so hyped when we're building something that we just like, yeah, it might be good. Maybe I should take this as well. You never know, future opportunity, and then you lose yourself in the meetings.
Yeah, but I think my takeaway is that I always forget these people. But when you have the future opportunity, and then let's say you spoke with the perfect person for that, very often I will already have forgotten that person. So yeah, it's
It's all
you
right.
need to find a balance.
And we can make the public personal CRM so where you can write the notes and okay, for the future for another queue because it's just difficult to remember when it's always
Yeah,
about
yeah,
networking. You
yeah,
mentioned a bit
exactly.
well, sorry for interrupting. While building Mohana, you mentioned that there were a bit of a roller coaster, right? You started alone, then you had a team. You actually managed to grow up until 8 people. Alone again, then more people. It seems like quite a journey. How did you manage to make such tough decisions? And where is your resilience coming from?
So let me just clarify that I think the team never really had, like when the team was 8+ people, it wasn't permanent team
Okay.
members. It was always freelancers or contractors or friends like coming in for like a very specific project. So it was never like me making the decision to like lay off the
Mhm.
team members, but rather it was just like we didn't have the resources to hire, right? So people were very often just helping for free, or we had freelancers, of course, helping for specific projects. But yes, it has been a roller coaster, to be honest with you. I mean, bootstrapping a company is really just so freaking hard. And I think you get so much resilience from that. And I just saw actually a LinkedIn post about this today, that I read this in the past, that like female founded teams actually have a higher ROI on every dollar invested in their companies than male founded teams. And when I read that the first time, I thought like, of course, because if you think about it, if you are notoriously underfunded and you have to kind of keep going, building your company under these crazy constraints of not having any money and not paying yourself a salary, and having to dial down on lifestyle and expenses, and you have like this tiny, tiny little budget you can spend on marketing, so you cannot make mistakes. You have to get it right.
Mhm.
You get this resilience and resourcefulness that when you do get that investment and you do succeed with fundraising, it actually serves the investor in an insane way, because you have become this person who is extremely resource efficient. So when I see that stat, I was like, yes, of course, that is also the story of Mohana, that like it's been so many people believing in this mission, and we are so stubborn and just it's like unshakable that we are going to get this right, and we are going to close the fundraising, and then we can do this for real with the team that we want to have on board, and with the resources that we actually need to scale this up to more people. But yeah, a lot of resilience that comes from that. And then on the resilience topic, I mean, there is so many more personal aspects in my life that I think have made me quite resilient. But
Is
those
there
are personal.
anything
I don't know.
if there is
No,
anything
I'm
you would
happy.
like to share, we would like to hear, I guess, that because sometimes it's easy to see after things happen, oh, the resilience just came because you just do things, but there are some major events that shape us, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes
yeah,
it can inspire someone else not to give up and push it through the hard moments.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can highlight a few for sure. I think being an immigrant is a huge one. I've lived in one, two, three different continents, 10 plus countries. I've started from zero very many times with zero friends around and zero support from my family. And you get a lot of confidence out of only being able to rely on yourself. And I think that's kind of the story of my life. Like, even when I was 18 and I left for university, I didn't go to university in my home country. I actually went to the Netherlands in Amsterdam, and my parents told me that, like, sorry, we cannot pay at all if you have like any trouble, like we cannot help you financially. And I still went and I figured it out, and I kind of had these little small wins that gave me a lot of resilience and confidence in myself. So I think that's just like the sort of undertone through my life. But then I also want to mention another one that I think not a lot of people know about regarding Mohana. So, I said that, like, I was doing a PhD and I was having these hormonal issues, and that made me think that there needs to be more innovation in the hormonal health space. But simultaneously, my mom had cancer. We found out that she has cancer. And that was, again, something that just took my attention and, like, threw it at healthcare, right? Because for me, it's like so personal to bring my AI skills into healthcare, because it's just something that I thought about every single day. And even until today, like, I think about this every single day, like all the hardship that we went through with my mom with her treatments. And then, yeah, deep into like building Mohana, I had spent like countless hours in the hospital supporting her, going through chemotherapy, multiple rounds, and, getting news that like she might die any moment. And then she actually recovered, and it's just an emotional roller coaster. So this is probably not shared by a lot of founders, but I think, and it's something that I don't often talk about because it is very personal, but it's something that I had to, like, live with and still keep going, because cancer is not something that happens for 2 weeks and then you're done, but rather it's been many, many years that this has been present in my family. So yeah, you just gain a lot of resilience through facing that.
Thank you for sharing, Dora. It seems like it's been a tough ride, and it totally makes sense what you're saying about the focus on the health. And I can see your eyes spark simply when you speak about Mohana. And clearly there is a lot of heart and time that you put into that.
Yeah.
And solving a very important challenge that we are facing in nowadays, I would say, Western world, and not in only the Western world, that it's really underrepresented. So I'm very proud of you. We've just met, and I was like so proud listening to you.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
I still want to go back a bit into what you mentioned about you moving to multiple countries without the back support. And my question would be, where did you have the courage? Did you have some kind of higher purpose, what you wanted to do? Did you have some kind of dream that you were going every time when you would make a decision to change your comfort zone and to go again into the discomfort? Or what kept you actually, not, I wouldn't call it chasing, what kept you actually going after your dream?
Mm. Mm. Phew, that's a big question. I think curiosity
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of confidence in myself. I mean, I know this sounds silly, but really I think these small wins of proving to myself very early into being a teenager that I can achieve quite a lot, and I can be okay from quite little. It really boosted my confidence that no matter what, I'll be okay. And I think that's how I go through life, that no matter what, I will be okay. So that gives you this like world, like an oyster. The world is your oyster, right? And then go explore. And that's where my curiosity comes in. And then I go after the things that are really interesting to me, such as like AI back in the day, and then now entrepreneurship, and women's health. So yeah.
The world is your oyster. So what's next for Mohana right now?
Fundraising. Hopefully, I mean, it's still, we're 1 week away from holidays, but we still have some very important meetings this week. So we might get some good news before the holidays. Fingers crossed.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And then, once fundraising is closed, I think this will be the first opportunity that we can actually do this with the resources that it takes to build a company, because again, like you can build the most amazing product and put it on the internet. If you don't have any resources to reach people with your company and talk about your company, then unfortunately it's going to be like slow down because you won't have any users. So we would love to dedicate more resources and actually getting a word out about Mohana and to more users.
That will happen. And right now, if any woman who is listening here and would like to do your Mohanas, I saw there's a kit test, right? You can order it, it comes to your home, and then you send it, you get the results, and the whole experience, user journey starts after you do the test, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And how are you outsourcing the tests actually from the curiosities? You're working with some kind of clinics?
So right now we are still in private beta. So anybody who is interested in trying, they can put their name on the wait list. And we're inviting people privately to test the product and use it. But the official launch will be in April. So that's related to your previous question. Like that's actually one of our big milestones for next year.
This is great.
But right now it's on wait list. And then we have a lab partner that covers all of the United States, such that, we have doctors in the loop who prescribe the blood test and then look at your results. And then if they need to make a call to see you, then they are able to do that. So they help us logistically.
Okay, so the big launch date is April 2025, right?
Yeah.
That's really exciting. And are you going to kick off in the US or also European market?
US for now, but I'm very hopeful that we can bring it into Europe soon.
Okay, I think Europeans are hopeful too for such a solution.
Yeah, I've spoke with many women early into Mohana, and I've done interviews with people from the UK, from the Netherlands, from Nigeria, from Hungary, and it seems like such a shared frustration, and just women just go through the same journey of feeling dismissed and misunderstood and really on their own and overwhelmed. So I do hope that we can bring it into Europe.
100%, that would be very valuable. So this whole podcast is all about the underdog founders, and many aspiring entrepreneurs are listening as well, or people who are into creating something right now. So what would be a thought for the day to ponder for anyone who is listening right now and building something new that you would like to share?
I think my message for the sort of entrepreneurs or one of the entrepreneurs is that there are so many things you can put your time towards, right? There's really like a trillion ideas and areas where you can innovate. Find what feels truthful to you and find an area where you have a story to tell, because that kind of, when it's personal, that's going to give you so much motivation to keep going through the highs and lows of building your company. So maybe that's something to ponder on.
Tara, thank you so much. Your story and this whole Mohana's mission is literally nothing short of inspiring. I really Hope
so
you're
much.
gonna close the round before, and you're gonna get your Christmas present, so you could continue changing the women's health around the world. And yeah, thank you so much for finding time for joining. And everyone who's been listening today, it was Dora from Mohana, and it was Perception Paradox. And have a great day, and see you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.